Hello, friends. Thank you for joining me today. I am in the middle of a project I started yesterday afternoon. And if you want to watch me do sketches and talk about it, go back to Daily Art Adventure number 518. This is Daily Art Adventure number 519, starting my third year of doing these nearly every day. Okay, let's talk about the sketch and notan process, but especially thumbnail and rough sketch process for doing a commissioned painting. I am going to walk you through the process really quickly. Some of review of what I did yesterday. First of all, I did research. I recommend. So this commission painting is supposed to be a grove of oak trees, an oak forest. So on Google, I looked up oak trees, oak grove, and oak forest, and selected a number of images. While I was doing that, I stumbled several times, 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 times, on this Russian painter named Ivan Shishkin. Anyway, something. And so then I said, well, I should look this guy up. So I did, and I discovered that, oh, he's the guy that painted this, which I'm already familiar with this painting. This might be, don't quote me, but this might be the most famous woodland forest painting in modern history. Anyway, let me see some. David John Carlson? Carlson. Anyway, very famous American landscape painter. Did a lot of gorgeous forest scenes. And several of the early American, of course, the Hudson River School people did forests and so on. But I think this probably beats all. You see this kind of thing on tote bags and mugs, and I used to have actually a tapestry with this image on it. Anyway, part of the point I want to make, again, for you students, is if you have an assignment to do a painting of this or that, some subject matter, maybe a portrait, maybe you're supposed to do a painting of a cat, maybe you're supposed to do a painting of a classic automobile. One of the things I strongly recommend is that the internet has made this so gloriously easy compared to the way it used to be in the olden days, okay? So I recommend that you go to the internet, but here's the cautionary tale I have for you. Do not pollute your mind with anything less than the very best. In other words, don't go necessarily, now I'm saying this very carefully, don't go necessarily to Tumblr or DeviantArt or any of the other art websites, art website communities that are populated by young, beginner, amateur, wannabe, amateur, young artists. Am I getting the point across? Don't cloud your mind. Don't compare yourself to mediocre people, in other words. Now, I've had this philosophy in me for decades. One time in particular, years and years ago, when I was an illustrator, I had to do a cutaway illustration. That is sort of like, you've seen these before, and this is in the days before computer. I had to do a painting of a truck, a beverage truck, like a Coca-Cola truck, that was an X-ray. You could see through it. You could see the inside of the truck. You could see the engine and so on. Do you know what I mean? So again, back in the day before Google, I had a number of books in my office that had, the best illustrators of 1994, the best illustrators of 1995, the best illustrations. Now, of course, the illustrators had to pay, or their managers, agents had to pay, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to get in this book. So, but you didn't get in the book unless you're pretty serious that you're pretty good. Anyway, so I had a stack of books, and I began flipping through it. Looking for the absolute best cutaway views, X-ray illustrators in the country. And I found him. I found the one guy that, in my opinion, was the best. I don't remember his name. I remember he lived in Arizona. And I found his phone number. Again, all this before computer. I called him up, said, His name was Michael. Michael, man, I love your stuff. I'm an illustrator. Man, he gave me a whole bunch of free information. It was fantastic. My point being, I didn't go to like Ringling School of Art. I didn't go to what's the one in Rhode Island School of Design. These are all good schools. I didn't go to Georgia, SASDI, Savannah School of Art and Design, SCAD. I didn't go to any college website to find people, young people who are doing. Now, I'm not picking on young people. I was young myself once, believe me. Hard to believe now, but I was very young. And I was a working artist as a young person. But early on in my career, I said, wait a minute, that's a mistake. Like, take, for instance, if I want to do a pointillism illustration, I don't find somebody who's kind of good, sort of good, pretty good, just a little bit better than you. No, 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 no. Do not do that. Get online and find the best, the most awesome, incredible pointillist artist. Am I making my point? I hope I am. Again, I'm saying this because I want you guys to be good. I want you to be good artists. I really do. I want everybody to be good. And so here's what I've done. So I'm practicing what I preach. First thing I did, I'm going to have to do a painting of an oak forest. Went online, found the best, not also sort of good, kind of good, pretty good, halfway good. No, I found about 10, 20 of the best illustrations. Found out then it was the best. The three of them were done by this Russian guy, 1880, 1890, Shishkin. I should have looked up his name. And again, I'm going to save these. Why? Because throughout the course of my career, periodically, I'm going to be called upon to paint forests. Right? I don't consider myself a master forest painter. So if I want to paint a forest, I'm going to go find the best in the world and copy them. Okay, so that's. I hope I probably beat that thing to death, but. Dang, I want you guys to be good. So there's a tip. Don't copy the mediocre, copy the best. Okay, now this is what I did online yesterday. Let me get this out of the way. This is what I did while some of you guys were watching me yesterday. I started doing thumbnail sketches, just black and white, monochromatic. I started actually with this page. This is markers on graphics paper, it's called. It's kind of like tracing paper, very smooth. So gray and different shades of gray markers. And then I said, well, let's use a different medium so that I get a different feel. So from that, I switched over to charcoal. Got it? Okay, and then I came back after the broadcast was over with a whiteout pen. Let me show you again. The best whiteout pen in the world is this one made by Presto. That's the kind you want to buy. Skip all the rest. Find this. Order it online. Do what I did last time. Order a dozen of them, and because they're good for drawing. And so there we go. I have 19 no-tan sketches. Now, let me take a little detour right here because Juan Carlos, thank you very much. He sent me a good comment after the video was over and sent me to a good teacher to describe what a no-tan was. So this morning, I've done some more research to find out what no-tans are. Here's what I have discovered. I have discovered that no-tans are actually two different things. You ready for this? This is a screenshot of my Google image search for no-tans. Can you see this? This is black and white only. And this is the kind of thing that high school, I recognize this. This is like a high school teacher would say, now boys and girls, I'm being facetious, a smart high school teacher wouldn't call a student boys and girls, but I'm being funny. So a teacher would say, now boys and girls, today we're going to learn about no-tans. And she would describe the process. It's black and white, hard edge. So I found this first and I thought, oh my goodness. And what Juan Carlos sent me yesterday, I thought, ooh, maybe I missed the boat because I thought that no-tans could be halftone, gray, like light, medium, and dark. I thought. And when I started doing research, I thought, oh man, maybe I missed the boat. Oh, but not to worry too much. I kept searching and discovered so now I would call these high school artsy, craftsy no-tans. Okay, this is a great example right here, just of a student work. Okay, craftsy, artsy, craftsy notans. Perfectly valid. I'm not putting it down, but that's not what I'm doing when I do notans. Okay, then I continued to research, and I found, oh, wait a minute, here we go. Yes, there are a whole bunch of people that do exactly what I do. Here's an article from the Artist Network, and almost all of these are three-tone, light, medium, dark, light, medium, dark. So whew, I was relieved to discover that I hadn't given you guys too bad of a bum steer. That I was right in thinking that notans could indeed be light, medium, and dark, which is what these are. Okay, so I did 19, but I did roughly 20 notan sketches. You with me? After doing some research. And after the 20, I picked out my 10 favorite. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Yep, I picked out my 10. So these are copies of some of these. Are you with me? I took pictures of these with my camera, sent them to my computer. In my computer, in Photoshop, I made them all the same size and all exactly the same ratio, 36 by 48 or 3 by 4, 3 by 4. So they're the ratio that my finished painting is going to be. So I printed out these 10, and then, first of all, before I printed them out, I actually tweaked them all. So here I'm drawing for the second time. Here's my first drawing. Second drawing is with a Wacom tablet in Photoshop with different kinds of brushes. I messed around with them. Then I printed these out. Then I drew by hand, so that now we're drawing for the third time. These are the copies. So all of these here have been drawn on 3 times. Drawing number 1, then drawing number 2 on my computer with a Wacom tablet, and drawing number 3, drawing physically with the whiteout pen and colored pencil and black pencil and so forth. Okay, then out of these 10, and this was hard. It was hard finding my 10 favorite out of the first 20. That was hard. It was even harder finding my favorite 5 out of these 10. But I finally did, and just for fun, let me explain a little bit. So how did I pick my 5 favorites? I literally, I looked at them upside down on my light table. Okay, so I did this and saw what do they look like backwards. That didn't work very, very well because the whiteout doesn't show up as white, but shows up as dark. Anyway, I walked across my office and I held them in front of a mirror. That's one thing I did. Number 2, I took my glasses off so I couldn't see the details. I turned them upside down. So I turned them all upside down and I started marking them. I turned them sideways and said which ones work best, upside down, sideways, fuzzy with my glasses off, and I started marking them. Bump, bump, here, this one gets 1 mark, and then this one gets 2 marks, 2 marks, and then 3 marks. Anyway, from that, I know I'm talking fast because I don't want to bore you to death with this process, but so I went from 20 to 10. Then I found my 5 favorite. And again, this time I scanned them with my scanner. Boom, 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 boom. And as you can see, I began delving into color now. So these are my 5 favorite reduced from my 10 favorite, okay? And again, in Photoshop with my Wacom tablet and my stylus, I began messing around with color, okay? And then once again, from these 5, I tried to find my 2 favorite, and I did everything. I held it upside down, I held it sideways, I took my glasses off, and it was very hard, but I finally, and I'm not sure that I'm right, but last night I determined that these 2 were my favorite. So once again, I printed those out. Well, I already had them in my computer, so I messed with them in Photoshop. Then I printed them out bigger, as you can see here, right? So here's the size that I started, right? So I'm much, much larger now. And then I tweaked these in Photoshop, so that would be my 5th drawing. And then I tweaked them with colored pencils, actually pastel pencils. and other things. So 7. These have been drawn, these two have been drawn upon 7 times. 7 layers of drawing. And again, they're rough sketches. They're not finished. You know, I wear glasses, so I'm farsighted. So now they're blurry, and I see them better blurry because I see what I'm after. But there were, and again, these big oak tree and little saplings, and way in the distance, real subtle, is a skyline of the city of Raleigh. So subtle, so subtle in this painting that most people would miss it until it's pointed out to them. Do you see that city back there? No, I didn't even notice that. Yeah, do you see that? Oh my goodness, there. See, that's about how subtle I want it to be, okay? Because if it's more obvious than that, it's corny. So it's got to be really subtle, because my client, businessman, committed to Raleigh, committed to mentoring young men and using oak trees as a symbol, and that Raleigh is the city of oaks, so it's very appropriate. So today then, so that's my sketch process. No-tan, thumbnails, no-tans, and sketches. Now I'm ready to go to my next layer of sketch work. Oh, hang on just a second. Can I back up to the no-tans for just a minute? There's one more thing I wanted to show you. There is online in your Play Store or your Apple Store. Your Apple Store if you are a iPhone person, and your Play Store if you're a Android person. This is an app called the No-Tanizer. No-Tanizer. And look there's a slider there, and you can do either black and white, which this is, or you can do 4 level. Look at, are you seeing what's going on here? So you can adjust each one. This is I think a pretty brilliant tool. So you can take any photograph that you've taken with your camera, and you can turn it into a no-tan sketch. And I'm going to say the fact that the No-Tanizer has 2 options, either just black and white, or just a no-tan, which they call black and white, or 4 level. That I'm going to take that as my authority, that the word no-tan can mean either one of those. It can mean purely black and white, like that is right there. Do you see how the slider? Isn't that cool? Really good tool. Or you could just look at a black and white photograph of your painting, or 4 different levels. So this is for artists, of course, and it cost me a little bit. I don't remember how much. It was not a free app. It was one of those that cost something. Okay, that's all. Just wanted to show you that. I think I'm done with that phone now. I'll turn that off, save power. So where do I go then from this point? The answer is, first of all, this morning, of course, I'm looking at these with fresh eyeballs. And up between the two. Now, I reserve the right, of course, to go back to some of my earlier versions and see if I like them better, but I don't need to do that right now. This is the one I like best. So, for some reason, I'm not getting any of your chats here. We got 13 people watching, but no chats. Okay, just want to make sure everything's working okay. And I want to make sure you aren't getting any buzzing or anything. Okay, now at this point, I'm going to do one more, and this would probably be the final sketch for this painting, if I like it, okay? And at this point, we artists have a decision to make. Kind of like we're standing at a fork in the road. We can either do just a rough sketch on the way to the final finished painting, a sketch that will help us, is good enough to help us produce the final painting, right? That's option number 1. Option number 2 is, yes, we produce a sketch that will help us with the final painting, but hey, wait a minute. While we're in the process of doing the sketch, why not do a standalone, beautiful piece of art? You with me? Now, I've been influenced, again, my buddy Mike Rooney influenced me this in the last several. We get together and paint for a week every year. And he's influenced me in this regard because he sells on Facebook. He sells his rough sketches every day. So instead of just doing an ugly sketch that helps you get the job done, why don't you do a beautiful sketch? So that's what I'm going to do here, and at least what I'm going to try to do. And I'm going to, I'm in the wrong position now for drawing, so let's back up a little bit. And back you guys up. I'm going to earthquake you just for a minute here. There, I believe that will do. Because I want to, of course, I want to hold my my pencil in the appropriate manner. Sorry, hang on, let me get my... Okay, so I'm looking, now I'm making, again, I'm making artistic choices, artistic decisions, and by the way, here's the point at which my earlier research comes to bear. Because now I'm looking at these paintings for, some of them are photos, I'm sorry, some of them are photos and some of them are paintings, but they're mostly oak trees. And rather than just drawing, you know, a tree out of my head, so to speak, because you won't get as good a tree if you draw it out of your head as you would if you were to draw it from reference. I hope you understand that. Drawing out of your head is okay. It is okay. It's legal, and we all do it. But if you want to get better, you don't focus on drawing out of your head. You focus on reference, looking at real things. And someday, again, probably during our Thursday night art class, which I'm going to start this year, early this year, hopefully, I'm going to do a whole number of, probably a whole week on drawing or painting trees. So you'll be able to select which classes you want to be a part of. If you don't want to hear a week about trees, then don't. But if you're a landscape painter, you do want to hear a week about trees, a whole week about how to draw trees. And for instance, one of the lessons that I will teach is that you don't want to draw ordinary trees. Whenever possible, you want to draw unique or unusual trees. That's all I'm going to say about that right now. In other words, you should draw trees that have unusual branches, not just predictable and ordinary branches. Let me see if I can find, oh yeah, so just for instance, here's one of the Shishkin paintings right here. This tree is very unusual because it has a great big limb, has broken off this side of the tree, fallen down, and has a big open scar on the face of the tree. That's unusual. That makes the painting feel real and believable, as opposed to, like in a photograph, here's an ordinary tree in a photograph, which is it's an easily forgotten, easily forgettable tree because it's too ordinary. Okay, there'll be a lot more of that kind of thing, and I haven't described that very well, but I hope that makes some sense to you. So what I'm doing right now is, again, my old trick, and I'm not going to do this whole process here on this video. I just want you to help me get started. So I'm doing my trick, which you've probably seen before if you follow me at all, starting with a light color, this time pale green, and then proceeding through various stages to darker and darker colors of pencil, watercolor pencil. It's very important. This is watercolor pencil is what I'm using here, and I'm trying to decide. Yeah, I guess I'll go to orange. I was going to do brown, but I'll do orange. So with each layer of the drawing, again, my eyes are skimming across these beautiful examples, and I'm picking a little bit. It's like, ooh, that's a good. Oh, I like that branch. Ooh, that's a good idea right there. Did you see that kind of thing? While I'm drawing this, and of course, my eye is most of all looking at my last rough sketch. Got it? So I'm looking at both of those. Looking at the master painters and photographs, and also looking at my sketch. And again, not just drawing out of my head, because most of the time when you draw out of your head, you draw predictable things. In fact, there's actually a mathematical principle or something. I'm not sure what it is. I do know that forensic investigators forensic accountants. That's maybe the term. Actually, I have a friend who's I think he's called a forensic accountant. He helps catch people who cook the books and steal money. And it's, the accountant does this. Well, here's one of the principles. I heard this like on a TED Talk or some kind of podcast in the last year or two. It turns out that human beings, get this, human beings are completely unable to cook up a random series of numbers. Like if you just start naming numbers, 6, 2, 5, 1, 4, 4, 5, 1, 2, 6, 3, 9, 11, oh, not 11, single digits, and so on, 3, 5, and so on and so forth. Or you start writing them down or typing them, and you say, no, this is a completely random list. There's a computer program that will catch you every time, because human beings, turns out, are completely unable, so much so that you can get accused and thrown in jail for making up numbers, because human beings, and it's the same, that's related to what I'm saying about trees. Human beings are completely unable to draw random trees because you will do certain things. So that's why it's a good idea to look at a photograph and copy something out of nature, because that will keep you from just doing predictable, random, what feels to you like random trees, but they're not. They're predictable. You do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. So that's 2 colors now. Let's go to, here I've got one that's kind of a plum raspberry color. So this is my third level of drawing. And I want to get a little bit more intense with some of my photo reference or painting reference here. And again, make sure that I'm not just, I've drawn thousands of trees in my lifetime, thousands and thousands. That means I have a habit of doing some things over and over. I'm positive about that. So not right this second, just for instance, I looked at a photograph, said, ooh, there's a branch that goes out almost horizontal from the trunk of the tree. That's weird, because most oak leaves, now again, we're not talking live oaks here, but anyway, because live oaks do this. But anyway, so my eye caught something in the photograph, said, ooh, that's a good idea. Do you see? So I've added it to my sketch, because it's going to help make the sketch more believable, because it's something I wouldn't have thought about on my own. And I'm going to steal Shishkin's idea of a broken off limb and a big scar on the front of a tree. Ooh, I like that. Not only that, why am I painting oak trees? Because again, it's a commission painting for a client, for a businessman who's committed to the city of Raleigh, wants to mentor young men, and is using the symbols of an oak tree to do it. So see, it's a symbolic painting. So it just dawns on me that, so this, in a sense, oh, and I've completely forgotten from my sketch. Let me show you my sketch real quick. One of the key things I discovered was putting a young sapling right up front, in front of the big tree. And so far, I've been ignoring that in my sketch. So let me come back here and incorporate that into this drawing here. Okay, because I feel like after it dawned on me that, ooh, that's a good idea, because it puts the idea of mentorship of the young sapling right in the forefront of the painting. So it's not just a picture of a beautiful oak grove, it's a picture of a young tree up front. The closest tree to us will be a young sapling. And before I finish that, I will probably Google oak sapling and look at different images of that as well. Okay, I've probably talked your ear off. I've probably given you enough stuff. I see a few chat comments there. Oh, good. Thank you so much. I'll come back to you in just a minute. Let me tell you where I'm going from here. I will be doing some pen and ink on this one. Sometimes I do pen and ink, sometimes I don't. This one I definitely want to. And Janie Johnson somebody else asked me the other day. Not Janie, she asked me about a fountain pen. This is it, Janie, if you happen to watch this. Somebody asked me about, can you do the unorthodox, the side saddle grip with a pen? And my answer is yes. With a fountain pen, You can't do this. Let me show you with the cheap variation of this, which is this kind of thing. Okay, and I use these. This happens to be a Faber-Castell Pitt artist pen, right? Perfectly fine pen, but it doesn't write. See, you have to hold the pen this way for it to write. So that hampers my freedom a little bit. So I was very, very, very happy when I discovered that the fountain pen allowed me to do the side saddle, what I call the side saddle grip, or the artiste grip, maybe. Am I zoomed in all the way? Let me make sure I am. I think I am. Let me try to tilt this toward you a little bit. I want to mention, yesterday I was talking about skill. I used a silly illustration of a pot and pan to talk about how an artist moves. I have discovered, I've been drawing trees for, again, so many decades. I do a number of things that I think are good. I do them intuitively and automatically. I'll mention one of those right now, since I'm using a pen. I wasn't going to do this much pen, but whoops. Let me see if I can get this even closer to you. Yeah, there we go. Here's the principle. If you're drawing a long, skinny object, like in this case, that's the trunk of the sapling, long and skinny. Don't draw it long and skinny. Don't make long parallel marks. Instead, make marks that bisect, go back and forth across the long skinny object. You know what? This deserves a better explanation. So hang on just a second. Let me get it for you. Let me just get a piece of scrap paper and a big fat marker so you can see really well. Okay. This is sort of a practical tip. Whenever you have to draw a long skinny thing, like say a telephone pole, first of all, this is how not to do it. Okay, but let's go back. Let's say a lamppost, kind of a classic, old world, say, lamppost. Okay. Again, this is how not to do it. Both of these are no's. Now let's do one more. Let's do a sapling. Okay, so here's a sapling. And once again, I'm demonstrating here how not to do it. The principle is stated anytime you have to draw, so these are all bad. When you have to draw long, skinny things, that could be anything. And it could be a woman's leg, a man's arm, anything that's elongated. You don't draw on one side a line and then a line on the other side. Now, of course, I'm speaking forcefully. Every rule can be broken. Yes, every rule can be broken. But if you don't know the rule, you're probably just screwing up. Okay, so these are 3 no's. Let's do 3 yeses. I'll do them in the same order. So how would I recommend drawing, say, a telephone pole? Okay, can you watch it? Here it is. You're going to notice a similarity there. Now compare this telephone pole with this one. Now even if I put those little climby things on it. Now this is a good cartoon telephone pole, don't get me wrong. There's a place for that, but no. Now let's put the climby things on here. Again, following my own advice, the little climby things are long, skinny things themselves. Look at the difference. Can you see that between these and these? That's enough. Now, why does this telephone pole have lines going across it? I don't know. Maybe it's the wood grain. Maybe it's in a town and it's had posters stuck on it. Maybe it still has posters stapled to it. If it's an in-town telephone pole, in some towns it's got all these things stapled to it. Maybe. But isn't this more interesting than that? Okay, now let's do the Let's do the old world lamppost. And I'm not going to talk about the top part because that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this part. This is how not to draw it. This is how possibly yes to draw it. Once again, and I'm doing this very quickly, look, let me fold this. I'm hoping you're catching this. Ugly lamppost, beautiful lamppost. Now, what's this? Well, instantly, it has the connotation of a wrought iron, ornate. And you say, but my lampposts are not ornate. They're just smooth. Yeah, but it's rained yesterday, and it's got oxidization on the post, and some of it is wet and some of it is dry, and there's some lichens and some moss. Do you hear me? This is more interesting. Yes, now that doesn't mean I'm giving you a rule. Every rule can be broken, but if you don't know the rule, which I'm telling you right now, you're probably just screwing up. Okay, so right, I'm doing this because I want you to be good. Dang it, I want you to be good. Do not draw skinny things in a skinny manner. Now, finally, let's do the sapling, and I hardly have to do it. You could do it. I could hand a marker to you, and you could do it. Let's start down here. So here's the bad sapling. Here's a good sapling, and this is what I was doing on my sketch, and this is just an extra detour. Okay, now I will tell you that my hand is. I'm not being arrogant. I'm being realistic. My hand has developed a particular skill at drawing organic-looking, believable sapling trees over the years. Okay, so there's the bad one, there's the good one. Okay, that's the end of this. I didn't plan to take that detour, but doggone, wasn't that worth the price of admission right there? So, I'm not gonna proceed with pen right now. I'm gonna go back and do maybe some more pencil stuff here to refine my images, and then I'll do watercolor on top of that. I don't know if I'll bring you in for that. Let's look at your comments though right now and see what you're doing. Shishkin, hey Raheel, Scream, isn't he good? He's amazing, and he belonged to a movement. I looked him up a little bit. A movement of Russians, artists in the 1880s or 70s or 80s that broke away from the academy. It was, like always, it's always Russian artists are always breaking away from their predecessors, but gorgeous stuff. He and all his teammates, so to speak. Yeah, thanks for noticing that. Hey, Thinker888, are those pastel pencils, or have you switched? These are watercolor pencils. Thanks for asking. For this particular technique, that means that when I begin doing watercolor on top of this, well, hang on, I'm going to cheat and show you a little bit the effect that this will have, of course. So this is just a spray bottle. When I start doing watercolor on top of this, look at how that all just came alive. And then I'll pick up a big brush, like this is a 2-inch brush, and just start doing some stuff. Now understand that this painting is going to be mostly green when it's all done. Okay, now I've just not ruined, but I can't do anything more with this sketch until that dries. So that's the end of my sketching for a little while, and I'll come back and do it later. But isn't that gorgeous? Can you see it? Isn't that pretty? If you don't think that's beautiful, something broke. Something in you not working. Now let me point out that in order to do this, it's absolutely important that the ink in your fountain pen be waterproof, and you can't trust the label on the ink. If it says waterproof, it's like maybe not. So while I'm promoting product here, I should really get Amazon credit for this, but I probably won't take the time to do this. I like both these products. They're both called Pen and Ink Sketch. Very inexpensive fountain pens. I've gone through. Where did I just? No, it's downstairs. I went through a whole bunch of really expensive fountain pens before I discovered these cheap ones. And at the moment, this is my favorite fountain pen. $20. And this black India ink, non-shellac, waterproof. And it really is 99% waterproof. So that's important if you're going to do this. Also, same thing with the, I've mentioned this, talked about this before. If you use one of these pens, you have to make sure, do a test, make sure it's waterproof. This is. Some of you might have seen me a couple weeks ago where I was using a pen that was marked waterproof. I thought I'd tested them all. Evidently, I missed one. And so when I did the wash, the ink began to run, and I was not a happy camper. So again, you cannot trust the label. Just because it says it's waterproof doesn't mean it. So you have to go through a whole test. Buy one of each brand and test them and see which ones are really waterproof. This one is. But the reason I'm using the fountain pen, of course, is because I can hold it side saddle. Okay, a couple more comments have come in. Thank you so much for it. And Tainen, you had the same question, though they're not pastel pencils. Those are watercolor pencils. And Michael says, do you ever start a pencil drawing to ink, but do that good a job of your pencil work? And don't you think? Do you know what I mean? Michael, I almost know what I mean. I almost know what you mean. I know if you took a little bit longer to edit all the words, I would know what you mean. But I think you're asking, do I ever start out with a pencil sketch and it ends up in ink? And the answer is, I think probably in my career, everything has happened at least once. Yeah, and I'm open. I'm very open to those kinds of serendipitous. There's the word, serendipitous. Be flexible. Allow things to happen. That's how you discover new stuff. And then finally, Colby, the Elegant Writer calligraphy markers have a really cool effect like that. I'm glad to know that, Colby. I've heard that. Elegant Writer calligraphy markers have a really cool effect like that. I'm glad to know that, Colby. I'm gonna try to remember that and pick up one of those. I've probably had some in the past. Don't have any right now, and I'll look for that. I always appreciate product recommendations. Always. I pay attention to what you guys do, what you guys say, because man, you're teaching me stuff all the time. I'd be crazy not to pay attention to you. But I'm going to stop there for today. Once again, I'm not working in my bedroom. This is my studio. My wife and I have been helping a young lady. She's been living with us for about 4 months because she's needing a place to live temporarily. So she sleeps in my studio. This season is soon to come to an end, but we are very, 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 very fond of Charisse and are going to be pulling for her as she moves out of our house and moves on with her career. Anyway, that's just explaining why I've got a bed in my studio. It's an air mattress. Thankfully, Charisse is very good at making her bed. Yay for Charisse. That would make it more problematic if she wasn't. Oh, here, Colby got another comment. The bleeding ink, and they won't react to it with more. Got it. With that's what you're talking about, Colby, about the bleeding ink. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I'm going to check it out. Okay, that's all. If you like this, please recommend me to your fellow artists. Please subscribe, hit the bell, and please like and share me with any artists that you know. If you like me. If you don't like me, of course, then let's just keep that between you and me, shall we? I like you. My sincerity just overwhelms you, I'm sure. I love you all. Oh, how did the old musketeer? Why? Because I like you. Mickey. Why? Because I like you. Or was I love you? I don't remember. Mousc. I'm showing my age, I know. But you guys know what it is because you saw it on Nick at Night. Okay. I digress. Hi, Colby. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.